Ari Fleischer, Fox News contributor and former White House press secretary, joins me now. Ari, to hear New Yorkers talk negatively about a Democratic president is quite insane. Hearing that one guy comparing this to the cocktail party in the 60s, I mean, this is no joke. This is not good.
Yeah, and the problem is that Joe Biden has a nasty history of saying these type of smears. Remember, this is the man in 2012 when he ran against Mitt Romney. He said when Romney addressed a black group, or Joe Biden addressed a black group, he said, Republicans want to put y'all back in chains. He's the president who, when he didn't like legislation, he compared it to Jim Crow 2.0, and he said that his opponents are on the side of Bull Connor, and now he's called them semi-fascists. So one of the reasons America is so divided is because we have a president who enjoys dividing us with using some of the most extreme, over-the-top vitriolic language imaginable. To half the country, to people who just happen to see things differently from he does, you're a semi-fascist. This is terrible language for a president to use.
I just can't understand what kind of world we live in where a president of the United States takes the stage and has the entire American public, all voters, by the way, watching you, and you come out and you use that valuable time to insult half the country. McCarthy has called on Biden for an apology. I would bet he should not hold his breath on that. But let's watch House Minority Kevin McCarthy on that.
President Biden has chosen to divide, demean, and disparage his fellow Americans. Why? Simply because they disagree with his policies. The first lines out of his mouth should be to apologize for slandering tens of millions of Americans as fascists.
What happened to the president who campaigned on unity?
He's never been a unifier. That was a myth. What he said in his inaugural address was window dressing. Those issues that I just walked you through are the real Joe Biden. That's what comes out of his mouth. I mean, imagine when you're running against Mitt Romney, one of the most reasonable, milquetoast, mellow people you'll ever meet in the Republican Party, and he says that Mitt Romney wants to return African Americans to slavery? Joe Biden has never missed an opportunity to paint a worse, most negative, vile picture of his opponent in an effort to win votes through demagoguery. And his demagoguery is almost always along racial lines. This is why he is so bitterly divisive. People think he's nice Uncle Joe in the attic. He's really a very mean-spirited, divisive man. That's what his rhetoric shows.
Yeah.
And that's why Joe Biden likes to say these kinds of things.
The New York Post
You're on the
hits
side
it.
of Bull Connor, an actual segregationist.
Yeah.
That's Joe Biden for you.
New York Post hits the nail on the head with this one. Take a look at this op-ed. It argues hypocrite Biden's speech was about one thing only, trying to bait Trump. You know, when I watch the president insult Trump, it kind of reminds me of what I was like in high school when I used to try to piss off an ex-boyfriend. You know, you want to bait them. You want to make them think that you're happy. Oh, yeah, I've moved on. I'm good. I'm over you. Biden needs to get over Trump. It's like an ex-boyfriend that you just got to move on. I mean, to constantly rehash the past is not a way forward. I mean, that's just the main staple in life that not only as a human, but as a politician, you should know that by now. And with the November midterms around the corner, all he's doing is hurting his own party, isn't he?
Yeah, and this was an inappropriate speech, and I hope the RNC files a claim and makes sure that the taxpayers didn't pay for his trip to Philadelphia.
Sure.
This was a campaign speech. The United States Marine Corps has some explaining to do. How did they get used? Why were two Marines put into the background of that shot? There are a lot ethically wrong with Joe Biden going to Philadelphia and giving a campaign speech on public dime.
Yeah. I got to also just real quick before I move on, the blood red background, it reminded me, I mean, Halloween is right around the corner, but that was eerie. I mean, it looked like a Halloween set. It actually inspired me. I know now how to decorate the front of my house. All right, so moving on. Last night's stop in Philadelphia, just one in a nationwide blitz ahead of the midterms. One location not on the itinerary, though, of course, you guessed it, the border. The president has not made one single visit there during his time in office, which is crazy. Drugs and illegal immigrants obviously coming into the country at record levels. The White House really stepping into it this week. Loads of backlash to this one. Watch.
Somebody unvaccinated comes over on a plane. You say that's not okay. Somebody walks into Texas or Arizona unvaccinated. They're allowed to stay. Why?
But that's not. It's not like somebody walks over and that's not how.
Exactly what's happening.
Border State Republican Andy Biggs saying that he would be happy to show the White House the real deal. In a letter to the press secretary, he writes this: "Your recent comments demonstrate disregard of the nation's border crisis. That's not surprising, given that neither you nor President Biden have ever visited the southern border. I would like to extend you an invitation to participate in a border tour along the Arizona-Mexico border with me." The president is not interested in the border because, you know what, those are Republican states. He only goes to Democratic states, so once again alienating half our country.
Yeah, and in his speech last night, he talked about Republicans oppose rule of law. Well, who isn't enforcing the law? Who is it who opposes rule of law on our border? And the ignorance to say that people aren't walking into the United States, how do you think they're getting here across the Rio Grande
Exactly.
and across other places?
Flying? No.
Going through customs and immigration the way you come here properly if that's what you want to do. This administration has lost the moral ability to make a distinction between people who come to America for our wonderful opportunities by coming here legally and those who come here illegally in violation of our laws. There is a moral distinction, and once you fail to make it, you really are letting America down, and you're the one now who opposes the rule of law.
Yeah, it's really unbelievable that the White House still denies the fact that people don't walk across our border. We watch it here on our channel every day, but, they're watching other channels, and, of course, those other channels ignore that under this administration. Last administration, they did not. Coincidence. Ari Fleischer, thank you very much. Have a wonderful Labor Day weekend.
Thank you, Julie.
Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens, stories that are changing the world and changing your life. From Tucker Carlson tonight.